That's dun dun.
The older I get, the more I have to pee all the time.
Dun, dun.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Talksicology, brought to you by Recovery Unplugged. Here at Talksicology, we talk all things addiction, recovery, and mental health. Tonight's guests, Naomi Fabricant and Shannon Larkin. I'm your co-host, Jason Cabello, and as always, your host and mine, Joseph Gorordo.
Jason, I love how doing something weird in that 2 seconds before the theme song starts has become a part of this show.
Yeah, it's become my favorite part now.
Well, this is big news. This is an exciting episode. Welcome to everybody who's tuning in. Thank you for joining Talksicology tonight from wherever you're coming from, whether it be Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or anywhere else that people stream things. So we're glad you're here. We love interaction. So please make sure to comment in the chat where you're from, if you're in recovery, if you're not, how long you've been sober, all that kind of good stuff. This is a benchmark episode of Talksicology, Jason. Did you know that?
I tell me more.
Well, one thing that we're celebrating is that this is our first international episode, you guys. I am actually live right now from San Luis Potosí, Mexico.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking, all the other stories that you told from Mexico. You had balloons of heroin shoved up your tuchus on your way back.
We don't talk about that.
I'm sorry.
No, yeah, here's one of the things that's really cool about recovery that I know you've gotten to enjoy, Jason, is like the ability to travel freely across state and international borders without having to worry about having enough dope to get through the trip, without worrying about getting busted through customs or trying to think about scoring dope in a foreign country.
Right.
It's weird. Like, we don't think about all the things that, alcohol and drugs can take from us. And one of them is our freedom to move about.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, just even being I remember my first hurricane because I got clean in Florida, and I remember my first hurricane being clean, and it was I don't have to stock up dope, and that was really tough, especially in South Florida after the pill mills closed down. It was insane to try to get stuff for to keep myself from not being sick during stuff like that, and then traveling wasn't even an option. That was the furthest thing from my mind, but the gifts of recovery, man. So what are you doing? What are you doing in Mexico?
And this is actually kind of cool too. So my best friends, me and my wife's best friends, are a couple. The husband is from Colombia and the wife is from Mexico, and we've known their kids since they were little bitty, and we are here to celebrate his confirmation.
Oh, nice. So the kids are with you?
No.
You got the whole family?
Nope, just me.
No? Okay, well that's cool too. Are you coastal Mexico there? Are you enjoying some?
No, we're central.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
Mexico City area? I don't know geography there. I'm just throwing names out there. Okay.
Jason, we have all kinds of people checking in right now in the chat. I don't know if you're seeing this, but
going nuts.
Canada, Ohio, Alaska, Florida, Trinidad, Seattle. We got 5 years of recovery in Seattle. Good job, Nicole. Woo-hoo. We got Alabama. We got Texas. We got Kentucky, 5 years in Kentucky. Good job, Erica.
Well, welcome, everyone. I think there's a lot of first-time live stream viewers here. And, if you don't know, we talk all things addiction, recovery, and mental health here. And, and thank you all for joining us. Yeah, chime in. Let us know how much recovery time you have, or if you're just an advocate or you love somebody who's struggling with addiction. Let us know what brought you here. Of course, I'm sure one of our guests brought a lot of people here, both of our guests, but yeah.
So what's going on with you, Jason?
It's been a pretty busy work week. I've been it's one of those, and I love it because it's this Thursday's my favorite part of the week. Get to hang out with you, get to jibber jabber, and then I know that the weekend's coming soon. So it's one of those weeks where I had so much going on. I'm editing some of the footage that you and I shot last week over at the church. I know we talked about it last week with your friend Danny. Editing some of that stuff. So it's been nice and busy. I prefer it that way.
That's good. That's good, man. It's nice to be busy, not hustling for drug money, right? I want to tell before we. I'm okay with bringing our guests on early because we got 2 guests today.
Yeah,
and they're both phenomenal people. But I want to tell a quick story from when I first joined the Recovery Unplugged team. Now, I've told part of this story before, right? And that I was working in treatment in Texas and got offered the job at Recovery Unplugged, and I turned it down a couple times until they offered me. They said, "Why don't you come out to Florida and just visit the program and see what we do? And then you can say no," right? So I flew out and got to meet a bunch of the team. And upon seeing everything at Recovery Unplugged Florida is when I decided, I want to be a part of this. But throughout my day, I was introduced to Miss Naomi Fabricant no less than 8 times. I don't know if this was a joke that was unique to my visit or if this was something they did all the time, but every time because Naomi was everywhere. She was in everything, in every department, running around, talking to clients, running around, figuring stuff out and getting things done. And so we came across her all the time. And everyone was like, "Hey, have you met Naomi?" And by the end, it was a joke. But she was one of the people that her shining light convinced me that this was a place that I wanted to work.
Yeah. First time I met you, we were with Naomi. In Nashville.
In Nashville at that thing, yeah. And I was like, man, this guy's got more tattoos than I do. I got to step it up.
Yeah. But yeah, quick, but right before we start, Naomi is the reason that I went to Recovery Unplugged. Naomi was working there, and her and my mom are best friends from back in the day. Naomi, we joke around that she changed my diapers, and I was 26. But no, she got me into treatment at Recovery Unplugged, so it's gonna have a lot to talk about tonight.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to get to it?
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. So today, you guys, we have 2 wonderful guests. First of all, we have Miss Naomi Fabricant, who we've already mentioned, who she is. What's the official title? The executive director.
Executive director of the Scars Foundation. Let's give it up for Naomi.
Hey. Nothing like making me cry before we start the show, you guys.
Oh man, when Jason started talking, I was like, Naomi's gonna cry. Naomi's gonna cry.
Pretty much.
And so Naomi is the executive director of the Scars Foundation, which is the nonprofit that is, help me if I get the language wrong here, that is the premier sponsor of this nonprofit is the band Godsmack, correct? Or how did
I wouldn't call them the sponsor, but they're the founders of the Scars Foundation. Yeah.
This is so Scars Foundation is a nonprofit that assists people. Well, I'll let Naomi talk about that. But it was founded by the band Godsmack. So our next guest is Mr. Shannon Larkin from the band Godsmack. Ooh. Tell me that isn't the biggest round of applause you've ever heard in your life, Shannon. Well, thank you guys both so much for being here, for making the time. One of the things we like to do to break the ice with our guests, even though I feel like there's not a lot of ice here to break, is a little tradition that we call the spinny wheel of songs. There once was a wheel, it was a special wheel, it was a magical wheel, it was the best damn wheel, it's the spinny wheel of songs. Da-da-da-da.
High-end production here. We spare no expense. All right, spinny wheel of songs. So Joseph and I will go first with this song, give you guys a second to think about it, and then we'll name the song, and then we will put it on our Spotify list.
A song that makes me feel relaxed. I feel like we did this one very recently.
We did. But we didn't do it with Naomi and Shannon, so
we didn't do it with Naomi and Shannon.
So you can name another one.
Okay. There is a song by the DJ Taicho or Taiko. I forget. I don't know how to pronounce it. And I don't know the name of it because I don't know the name of EDM songs. But it starts off by going, wow, 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 wow. That song makes me feel very relaxed.
Okay.
Someone in the comments maybe knows what it's called.
I think even though it's kind of a little troubling with the lyrics, I think Candy Says by the Velvet Underground has been a very soothing song for me. So that's for me.
All right. Who's up next? Shannon, Naomi? Who's ready to roll?
Velvet Underground is totally just soothing all their songs. But
Yeah.
right away I thought of Angel, a song by a band called Massive Attack.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. With that bass line. Oh.
It makes me just chill. It's very relaxing. Yeah.
Man, whatever happened to trip hop, man? Early 90s trip hop was amazing, and then it just went away.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it evolved into something a little bit less savory, but yeah, like Portishead and all that stuff. It's some good shit.
Sneaker Pimps. Yeah.
Naomi.
It's going to be a little cliche for me, but Imagine by John Lennon.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Well, it's almost like, so is it like the little piano riff, or is it that like kind of hope in a hopeless time? Like it makes you feel centered and challenges? Yeah, the lyrics.
It's just like the tone and the kind of the rhythm of it and what he's saying really speaks to me. And that is kind of like, Jason, you've known me forever. Like that's kind of just who I am. Like
your vibe.
Yeah.
And the stripped down vocals too. Like John Lennon's stripped down vocals always is like Julia. That's one of
I love it.
That one could have been named. But anyway, we could talk about the Beatles forever here. That'll be our next show. Let's hear from you guys a little bit. So, Naomi, you want to talk a little bit about how you got started at Recovery Unplugged and how you got into the whole recovery scene?
Sure. So my background is really in the music business, on the business side. And about 20 years ago, I met a songwriter by the name of Richie Supa. And he worked with people like, his big claim is with Aerosmith and Steven Tyler. And I started working with him, and he's in recovery. And I started going to meetings with him because I traveled with him and all. And then one day he calls me up and he's like, guess what we're doing now? And I don't know, going somewhere to do something. And he's like, no, we're opening a treatment center. And I'm like, oh, okay, but I'm not in recovery, and I've never worked in treatment. And he's like, we know, and we want to do it anyway. And so he's like, will you come meet with my partners? And I'm like, sure. And I met with them, and I talked with them at length about, the whole concept of using music in treatment, and I loved it. And they're like, well, we don't know exactly what you're going to do, but we need you, so will you come on board? And I'm like, sure. Which kind of lends itself to what Joseph was saying. At first, I was kind of all over the place and did a little bit of everything all over. And then they were like, well, we're going to launch a nonprofit and you're going to run it. And I'm like, okay, well, here again, never did that before, but I guess I'll figure it out. And that's what happened. So then my background in marketing and communications. And so, that's what I did. Excuse me. I did marketing for them and brand development. And that's how, Jason, we worked together. And I did a lot of work with Music Cares. And that's how I got into Recovery Unplugged and working in treatment.
Awesome.
And then how did you make the jump to the Scars Foundation?
Well, at one point at Recovery Unplugged, I got a pretty substantial promotion to a vice president. And they said, we think you're going to be too busy to do both, so we're taking you off of the nonprofit. And I was like, okay, And so what happened was I had applied to do a panel at this music conference, and I included Shannon on the panel, but I didn't ask him first. I just figured, let me just do it and see if I get the panel. And I did get it. And so I called him up and I'm like, hey, guess what? And it doesn't look like it's a conflict with your touring schedule. And he's like, well, let me call Sully. So it turned out that it was a conflict, but it led Shannon to sharing my contact with Sully, who I hadn't seen in quite a number of years. And like 5 minutes later, Sully called me and we started talking. And he's like, what have you been doing all these years? And I told him, and he's like, I need you. I've been wanting to launch this nonprofit, but I didn't have anybody to do it with. Will you do it with me? And I'm like, sure. So it just literally happened almost like within 24 hours after stepping down as executive director of the first nonprofit to joining Sully and Godsmack in launching the Scars Foundation. And then
you tried to get out, and the nonprofit world just kept pulling you back.
Yeah, and that's the only job I have. Like I work full time. I don't have a second job. I just work full time running the Scars Foundation and helping it grow and hopefully helping save lives and get people in treatment and do whatever we can do in this crazy topsy-turvy world to just help make people's lives better. That's our goal.
Love it. And we'll talk more about the Scars Foundation here in a little bit, but let's hop over to Shannon. And Shannon, tell us a little bit of, what brought you to this, okay, how did you end up on a podcast about addiction and recovery this evening?
Well, I can start off. I'm Shannon. I'm alcoholic, and that's what that is. And so, I started playing clubs when I was like 13, and I was drinking hard by the time I was 15, 16 years old, and just, I've been doing this for a long, long, long time, and I've never done anything else. Always been in bands, and that's been my life. So I've always been around alcohol and drugs. And fortunately, didn't have the problem with drugs, but total alcoholic, enabled for 36 years. I'm, by the way, 6 years and 5 months sober. And so anyway, it all culminated in the end of a marriage, and I had actually my bottom. I had gotten on my motorcycle, Harley Davidson motorcycle, big motorcycle, and in a blackout state. And I woke up in this parking lot with the motorcycle laying on my leg. And that's when I called the next day, I called a friend. Luckily I had my phone in my leather jacket, and I pulled it out because I couldn't get this bike off my leg. And I came out of my blackout at that point, and all of a sudden I'm like on the ground with this big bike on my leg. And so I called a buddy and woke him up in the middle of the night. He came 15 minutes, helped me get the bike off me. And the next day I called my manager, Paul Geary, said, I'm going to die, I have to do something. And through Music Cares, I, was in contact again with Recovery Unplugged and met Naomi, which is the oddest thing that, 4 years later, she ends up, being our person at Scar. She is Scars. And so it's a small world. But, I was a guy that was raised, in bands, and, I was never a guy who believed or thought that therapy would work, and I always bummed out on rock stars in rehab, but when you're at the end of the rope, you're at your end of the rope. And when I went to Recovery Unplugged with Richie there, and the way that it was centered around musical togetherness somehow, and it got through to me. And the therapists there, all of them, Cheryl especially, who was was assigned to me as my personal one-on-one therapist or whatever. And it changed my whole life and changed my whole feeling about therapy in general even. And, earlier I was asked, as a screening question, do I mind talking about Recovery Unplugged? Recovery Unplugged, I tell every interview I do, it comes up, and I always mention it by name because it was a life-changing time for me. And I honestly think that, if it weren't for Recovery Unplugged, I probably wouldn't have gotten through that,
So
If I,
so let me ask you, Shannon. And you said you went hard for 36 years, right? Excuse me. So never in those 36 years did you ever think recovery was a possibility for you, or even something that you wanted?
never, I always thought, I was an oddball and kind of misfit kind of dude all my life. And like, we talk about bullying and all that kind of crap. And I was always just a freak, like, and so, but a musician. And so, it became almost like, all my idols were all, fuck ups.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I was
Yeah.
trying to be like John Bonham. I was trying to be like Keith Moon and later like Sid Vicious or whatever. And so I always thought it was really cool to be fucked up,
Right.
Live fast, die young, leave a good-looking corpse. That whole thing.
Yeah, man. And and at the time, when I first was drinking, like probably the first 10 or 15 years, I would only black out like maybe once a year. And I'm a little dude, and so I'm not like, I never got violent and tried to beat people up or something. I never had any like issues. I was just drunk, and like, uh, over the years, it got more. All of a sudden, it's twice a year, and then it's 2 times a year, or 3 times a year, and then, and then, meanwhile, my band is successful, and I'm going around the world, and it became 5 times a year, and finally, Sully, sat me down in Europe one time and said, "Dude," the sad part at the time was, we were drinking buddies, and so now he's going to lose his drinking buddy, but he knew that if he didn't make that step and tell me to stop drinking, that I wouldn't last in the band. I might not live. So it was some tough times that I denied, the fact that I was an alcoholic. And I would say, oh, it's only 5-6 times a year or whatever. But it'd be major issues where you could die, and
Yeah.
See, and we talked about this like last week, in the terms like I was a dope fiend, right? So I was a heroin addict, and I would convince myself, you know what? Really, like, I'm only shooting dope 4 times a day, and that only takes about 10, 15 minutes each time. So really, it's only an hour a day that's like kind of fucked up, right? And you're like, 5-6 blackouts a year, no big deal, right? We want to justify and rationalize it.
and it's about communication and having people. I learned, having people. If you go within, and try and lie to yourself, then you'll never get better.
Yeah. So, Shannon, you and I don't know if you'll remember this, but we partied for a while back in the day. You guys were recording an album in Miami Beach, probably around 2001, 2002. And after your sessions, you guys used to come to this restaurant, the North Miami Beach Ale House. You actually put a special thanks in the album. I was a waiter at the North Miami Beach Ale House when you guys were there. You used to come in with your, I forgot the engineer or producer's name, the big guy who had the Tommy Lee tattoo. And you guys used to come into the restaurant, and we would close the restaurant, and the whole staff and you guys would party until like the sun came up in Miami, and then we would all part ways. But yeah, we stayed up quite a few nights, like drinking in the closed bar in Miami. Do you remember that at all?
I remember the bar, and I remember drinking there. Big Biggie was with us,
Yeah, that's who it was.
Tommy Lee's guy, yeah.
Yeah, he has the Tommy working for Tommy Lee doesn't suck tattoo on his leg. That's yeah.
And that's the thing about it. I was telling the producer earlier. So you remember from back in the day, and it's this business is odd that sometimes there'll be 150 people a day at meet and greets or whatever that we're meeting, and so many faces, so many people. And it is hard, even though I can remember 1,000 songs.
Right.
I can't remember a guy's name that I met and partied with, but the partying also too. That's one regret. I try not to have regrets, but one regret that I do have is that a lot of the touring, I've been touring the whole world for since I first went to Europe in '98 or something, '97, and I've been touring there ever since. And so many memories, of all these beautiful cities that I've been to. I have no memory of it. And
Right.
people, oh, you remember that time we were in, Paris or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, no, yeah, I don't remember. Oh, that's right. You drank a fifth of Jack that night or whatever it is. And I'll see pictures like of past trips where, I'm out and I'm at the Eiffel Tower or whatever, and I don't remember it. And so that's kind of a drag. And so drinking and drugs take that away from you, and
So
clarity.
how does that contrast with touring now?
Well, it's excellent. I mean, now, on days off, I'll go. I've always been a loner guy on the day off because we're so, as musicians, whether you're in a big band or a small band, you're surrounded by people constantly. Your crew, and you're just never really alone time. Especially if you can't afford your own hotel rooms, which for many years of touring I couldn't. So we had to share rooms, multiple guys in the band in the same room and all. And so when I go out on my days off, even to this day, I go alone. It used to be taxis. Now I'll get an Uber and try and find a bookstore, or even go to the mall. And since I'm the drummer, added bonus, no one recognized me. I can go and go to the mall. I mean, one time, and Sully will always he gets road crew dudes, and on the day off, and he'll call us all up. Hey man, we're all going to meet at the restaurant downstairs or whatever, and go to whatever and watch the game at the sports bar or whatever. And I'm always like, yeah, no, I'm going to go and do my thing and alone. And so one day he called me up early and he's like, hey, so we're going down to the sports bar, watch the Raiders game or whatever it was. And then he's like, you want to come? And I'm like, no, man, I'm going. I know this mall that's only like 7 miles away. I'm already got an Uber called. He's like, oh, well, yeah, I need something at the mall, so I'll go with you, right? And we walk into the mall, and maybe 10, 15 minutes later, I start to feel like people following us, and I'm looking around. Started to be groups of people following us, and then within a half hour, it was a full meet and greet, all surrounded Sully, and I was like, just standing there awkwardly, going, you know what I mean? Like on your day off when you want to be alone,
Yeah.
And so
you're like, I'm just gonna sneak off over here to the band store. And
and unfortunately, then they notice me, after but the recognition of Sully makes them all come up, and then I'm standing there, and then ultimately they'll recognize, and it's not that. Listen, I love bands. That's the reason that we are what we are. But there's like I said, 5 nights a days a week, you're meeting 100 people, and then your day off, it's nice to be the drummer and not be recognized. Is all I want to say. And Sully
Can I just say something?
Shannon,
you're pretty recognizable.
Sully never came to another mall with me.
So question. So a lot of times we talk about recovery. Entering into recovery is a lot like growing up in public, right? Because a lot of the stuff that people learn to do in high school and college, like we learn how to do it, at 30 or 40 or whatever age we sober up at. How was it recovering, in a much more public way than most people? Like, did it feel awkward? Were you nervous about it? I know I've talked to a lot of creatives who are worried about, will I be able to do my thing that I do sober, right? So like, how were those challenges for you?
Well, firstly, I have never really cared about perception of me, because all my life I've been super skinny. And so everybody always just assumed that I was an addict and a junkie, and I never did dope, you know what I mean? So, yeah. But I was alcoholic. But anyway, perception, my sense of style and fashion or whatever, I dance to the beat of my own drum, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I never cared about that part of telling the world, like, the question, can we mention that you are sober or whatever? None of that ever bothered me. My biggest fear was, as a musician for so long, is like, I feel like, the concert, and it comes from being a Uber fan, and like, when we got tickets when we were growing up and all through high school and when you get older in your 20s, and concerts are the thing, right? And with us, it was like we'd get the tickets weeks before the concert, or even a month out. And you were just so excited for this and led up to it, right? You might have paid $30, $40 for the ticket. And so it's a party, right? And so we're the hosts of the party. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so to be on stage, and we would always, try and, you try and connect. That's what you try to do as a musician. You try and connect with the crowd, And so I was always afraid that I wouldn't be able to connect anymore because here I am. I'm the host of the party. We're the band. Where you paid your ticket to come and see this show. And I always thought, how am I gonna have fun not being able to party? And I didn't realize until after I recovery unplugged, that your happiness is inside. It's not from the drug or not from the alcohol. It's the trick is finding it, and that's where they broke me through in the therapy. And everyone has a reason, I believe, on why they can't control or why they become addicted in the first place. And so I always, I'm very spiritual, and I always believe that, you have to find yourself before you can give up your drugs and alcohol or your problems. And so, and like I said, Recovery Unplugged totally helped me find the reasons within that I don't talk about in public, that I feel I became, a loser.
Yeah, we actually had the same therapist that you had mentioned. I came through about 5 months after you to Recovery Unplugged, thanks to Naomi, of course. Naomi helped me get into treatment. But let me ask you, Shannon.
I just want to point out that a couple of people in the chat have also pointed out how Naomi has helped them in their journey to recovery. So.
Right. Yeah.
And can I just say, Jason, at the same time that you met Shannon and the guys, I was managing the rehearsal studio. That's when I first met them also.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that. The irony of that, too.
Wow.
She was at Mary's place.
Mary's place.
Oh, yeah.
And
Mary,
Jason's mom worked there with me. It's a whole family thing.
Yeah, we lived at Mary's house for a long time, who was she was a very big part of the music scene in Miami. And I love Mary. Rest in peace.
She rest in peace.
Yeah,
so, Jason, I interrupted you though, Jason. You're talking
that's
about
okay. I was just gonna ask, because I know going up on stage and having that crutch, right, to be able to drink. I don't know how much you were drinking before shows, or it was more of an after party thing. But what was it like the first time that you got to go on stage, being sober?
Yeah, I have another band, the Apocalypse Blues Revival. It's like a side thing. And we always, just like Godsmack did actually, but we always did shots before we rolled on the stage. And so that was my first band that I played sober. And I got to admit, as I was extra nervous because I didn't have the alcohol confidence of a couple shots,
Right.
But the clarity, I'd say the word a lot, clarity, the clarity when I was on stage was completely better. And I don't know, a lot of people say this, but you feel smarter. And so you retain information better, when you're sober. And, having been literally drinking all my life, 30 some years, I was in a way bummed out that I didn't go sober 20 years earlier, but again, no regrets and all that. It's just, I feel that being on stage sober, you can appreciate it more.
Yeah.
You're more present in the moment and able to just take it all in, right? Like how cool. I don't know. I saw this thing on Facebook recently because I spend too much time on social media that said something about anytime I'm at a big concert, there's always a moment where I stop and I look at the crowd and I'm like, this is what happy feels like. Like this moment here with the music, with the crowd, with 40,000 people singing along to all these lyrics. Now, like that is, I don't know, that's my happy place. You know, it sounds like it might be yours too, you know, but obviously on stage instead. So one thing I think is really cool about your story is, you know, at the beginning we were talking about how like you didn't believe in therapy, you know, probably thought that was, you know, a bunch of stuff for the hippy dippies to kind of talk about, you know, their feelings and all that. And now I've heard you several times talk about just like how powerful that experience was for you to enter into therapy. And now, you know, are part of this band that has started this nonprofit that, you know, centers around, you know, mental health and addiction and counteracting specifically, right, the effects of bullying, right? So what's the connection there? I mean, Naomi, you know, what's that connection between, you know, bullying and addiction recovery mental health?
Geez, I don't even know where to start answering that one. I mean, you know, I mean, I hear so much, you know, so many stories of people that we encounter that we try to help that, you know, they're pressured by, you know, like, let's say multi-generational issues where they're like, oh, you think you're better than we are. Like you think, you know, getting clean is going to make you better. And the family pressures them. Like we're doing a lot of work right now in the region of Appalachia, which I know you guys know this, you know, Dope Sick. And, you know, we're working in Ground Zero right now. And there's so much bullying from pressure from family and friends and coworkers there about staying in that cycle, you know, and like, oh, so you think you're going to be better than us now?
Right,
And
right.
so we're really trying hard to break that cycle right now. And that all, I believe, if we're going to classify it as something, would be bullying, you know, and then there's a lot of it on social media that we try to undo, you know, like just the pressure of trying to be perfect and, you know, like judging yourself because you're not enough of or not as good as, because you're telling yourself these kind of lies based on what you're seeing on a screen. So bullying.
Oh yeah, Facebook, they released all that data recently that like they know for a fact that Instagram makes teenage girls depressed.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a little bullying story. Or I'm sorry, go ahead, Naomi.
No, I was just gonna like just last sentence to answer your question is like we're working very, very hard with our program to really counteract all of that and give people the tools that they need so that within themselves they know that those stories aren't true, you know.
And I wanted to share a story just about, you know, Shannon, you had mentioned, you know, always kind of being like a weird kid, you know, and be, you know, marching to the beat of your own drum. And Godsmack, even before the Scars Foundation, I know has been helping people with bullying because I was my freshman year of high school is when I found my beat, right? And I fell into the punk scene and kind of like, you know, started dressing a little different, maybe painting my nails a little bit. You know, in where I grew up, there was the preppy kids and we were called the freaks, right? We were the freak kids with the colored hair and all that kind of stuff. And
Where was it that you grew up, Joseph?
Laredo, Texas. Yeah. But so I lost a lot of friends when I kind of went my own direction, right? And so the theme song to my sophomore year of high school, you know, that was the summer that Whatever broke big. And so my sophomore year of high school, I actually had my alarm clock set to wake me up with the song Whatever every day to like be like, you know what, I'm doing the best I can, go away, like whatever to people who want to judge me, like this is, you know, so I don't know if that's a cool story for you, but like, but like, you know, you, even before you believed in mental health and addiction and recovery, like just through music, you know, you guys were already helping kids like me back in 2000 or 99 or whatever year it was, to kind of find themselves.
Well, can I just speak to that for a second?
Go,
so, you know, I consider, I mean, all the guys like family, you know, they're my family. And Sully and I have become pretty close. I consider him my brother, you know. And if you really hear the story of so much that went on in his childhood and young adulthood. You'll understand a lot of like where the songs, were inspired from his life. And he's been for a long time going and speaking at schools, at high schools and middle schools, and working with kids to share the story of, overcoming, and don't let that, like we'll call it bullying and different things that happen to him. And he's been really passionate about, using his platform, which is, so great. And if you ever saw the video for Unforgettable, which Shannon can speak to that, I mean, that video kind of tells the whole story in a nutshell to me, of where their heart is and where Sully's heart is, and how the band comes together to really help. But they've been doing it, like you said, for quite a while, and it's out there. It's all out there for people to see, and it's such a blessing to have that passion from the guys in the band.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit, speaking of like guys in bands and being in the music business. Naomi, who I've known most of my life, been in the music business, been around a lot of people who did a lot of drugs. Some people can handle it, some people couldn't. Now, I always remember Naomi as one of those who wasn't touched by what I have, this thing. She might have been around the party scene a little bit, but I never remember her being part of that. So what was it like seeing, I mean, you were in the music business since the late 70s, early 80s, right?
Started in the mid 70s, yeah.
Mid 70s as a photographer, and then you moved on working with Doc and my mom, and just seeing all these people who had these amazing careers ahead of them, great lives ahead of them, and just could not use drugs. Like, let's Benny Mardonis, Pat Travers, people we've known who just, had tasted success and for some reason or other just never found that way out. Did that make, is that why you do what you do? Or at least partially?
So it kind of really chokes me up because, when you talk about bullying, it happened to me. Like when I toured, I was always, because I did production and logistics, so I was always like the first one off the bus and the last one back on the bus. And I didn't want to party. Like I literally said this, and people thought I was like, part of my language, like so full of shit, and that like they couldn't stand it. But I was like, dude, I'm high on life. I get to do what I love to do around the most amazing people. I don't need your drugs. Like I don't want them. And like they would just like say, oh, what do you think, you're better than we are, and and all of that. But like I would watch people such as some that you just mentioned, Jay, be out of control of their life and really like destroy their career. I mean, some of the stories. I'm not really going to share it because they were not really necessarily public, but get like just out of control and knock over a stack of speakers because they didn't, like, the engineer didn't get the sound right on the first go around, you know what I mean, on sound check, and lose record deals because they were too high to be able to have a conversation, and it just kind of broke my heart. Like it just broke my heart to see people like just die so young, and like just like their lives just cut so short, that it just like the gift that, like, I have no musical ability whatsoever other than to hear it, and so to see the gift that people are given as musicians and to just be overcome by addiction just breaks my heart, and so even a friend who just recently came out of treatment, it's interesting because there's a pattern of, like, when they're using, they don't keep in touch with me because I guess they could tell that they would know that I could tell, right? And so a friend of mine just got out of treatment, and I sent a text after not hearing from this person for a few years. Like, I still consistently, birthdays, holidays, would text and not get an answer back. And I recently text, and within like 30 seconds got the most beautiful response, and it just warmed my heart that I got my friend back, And so I don't know if I answered your question or not, but it just breaks my heart to see the light and the flame of the talent be so dull and oftentimes, you know, gone out way before they should have because of drugs. And that is why I got into doing what I do.
Oh man. So
We've
Sorry.
seen so many fall, man. I mean, wow, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
how can you, when does the light bulb come on? You know,
Sometimes never, unfortunately.
and you know, that's why I praise therapy, praise Recovery Unplugged, and tell everybody I know, you know, that you can beat it and you can help yourself, you know.
Yeah. I always think of
Don't
all
do
the
it alone.
millions of songs that we never got the chance to hear because somebody with amazing talents just didn't find it or didn't find it soon enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
man. So
I
too
mean,
many
speaking of that, so
mention.
so speaking of that, like today, you know, I'm here in Mexico. We're celebrating my good friend's kids' confirmation, and I've known these kids since they were little. I think Santi's like 15 or 16, and he's recently, you know, he went through some depression recently, and he started playing guitar, and I started giving him lessons. And of course, every teenager still to this day, when they first pick up a guitar, the first thing they want to do is start learning Nirvana songs, you know. And we were downtown, and they had some pirated Nirvana shirts and you know, Kurt Cobain, who we lost to addiction, right? Who I think was
Mhm.
also very much bullied as a kid. He's still impacting lives, you
Mhm.
know. We're talking about Shannon, you know, you guys impacting lives before your recovery and impacting lives after your recovery. Like, not just how much music has been missed out on, right? But how much good that music brings into the world that we've lost because of, you know, folks not getting support, not getting, you know, treatment, not finding their path to this thing that we all know is so fantastic, right? Um, Now, one thing that I've noticed as a professional is it seems to me like the clients that come in to us seeking help, right, um, have gotten, there's been much more severity of things like depression, anxiety, and trauma. And it's, you know, it used to be, let's say, maybe 2 out of every 10 clients came in with some kind of trauma, right? And now I'd say it's flipped to where 8 out of every 10 clients comes in with some trauma. So um, I know one thing Scars Foundation talks about is social media, right? And I think social media has had a big part to play in that. You know, why do you guys think that is? What do you see in the social media that is creating so much more damage to our youth of today?
Well, it's certainly you know, an easy way to bully. I
Yeah,
mean, you know, you can. It's like anybody can say anything about anyone and have people that have no clue believe it.
yeah,
So you know, it's hard for me as a 55-year-old dude because you know my life, bullying was a whole different animal when I went to school. You know, and so the solution and how you would resolve bullying was a whole different animal. And you know, the world's changed. All I really think about it, especially the cyberbullying and online bullying and all that, is that ultimately, to me, it comes down to communication with your parents, you know, and parents need to stay just like my parents in the mid to late 70s and early 80s when I was growing up and forming my life. Every single one of them, I mean, every single one of the friends or people that I hung out with, my parents were very inquisitive about my friends. They wanted to know who all my friends were. And so now, because they didn't want me hanging around with the wrong people and
Right.
becoming an addict or an alcoholic or something. And but so it's the same thing with the online thing. And I did with my daughter. And you know, you have to monitor everything that they're doing online. And then, you know, if you're monitoring, say, your daughter's Facebook, and you see somebody, you'll see somebody bullying her or saying things, or you'll see ugliness, and you can nip it in the bud. But unfortunately, life is life, and a lot of parents, work two jobs, single mom, whatever, and then the kid feels alienated and can't go to the mom to say I'm being bullied, and then next thing you know, they having suicidal thoughts, or they're too scared to go to, the guidance counselor at school because they don't want people to think that they're, rabbits or whatever. And it's fear, a lot of fear, and so there's cool things out there now that people can reach out and get help, and sometimes it's easier to pick up the phone and talk to a stranger, that's say an online therapist, and just be able to say things to them that you couldn't even say to your mom or to a guidance counselor for fear. So there's the good things and the bad things, I guess, about what we have going on online bullying. But the only good thing is that there are places now where you don't physically have to go to some therapist office now,
Yeah,
which
Recovery Unplugged. We just started our virtual treatment. So, we have virtual treatment now for people who can't make it, and they could do aftercare. People in rural communities sometimes can't get out. People can't get out because of family and work. So now we offer that, and it's been helping a lot more people. It's just letting our reach get just that much bigger, and it seems to be helping a lot of people, which I'm grateful for.
that's
or
brilliant.
even right now, right? Like we're talking about all the negative stuff of social media, but like right now we are on social media and there's
Yeah.
people who are hearing this conversation
Yeah, that
because of it. So,
that's what I wanted to say. It's like, like we have the Scars group, and it's a safe place for people to come and share, and it's monitored pretty well by our coworker Dom, who, hi Dom, she's online watching. She's
hey,
amazing,
Dom.
and you know, we we do our best to make sure that there is no bullying and there's no negativity in our group. Which we have a few thousand people in the group, and it's really a safe place for people to come and share and hopefully be uplifted and get some resources if they need it, and have conversations like this show. Like, this is positive, this is considered social media, it's online. And I think that the challenge is especially in the younger generation, is making the right decision. You know what I mean? Like, to choose the positive and not um, bombard their bombard themselves with the negative, and not even just the negative, but the stuff where they feel like they got to keep up with. And so much of the anxiety and depression comes from feeling less than, or like, there's I mean, there's so many different things, like body image, face image, like, I don't have the right clothes, I don't have all the jewelry, I can't wear designer brands, and there's just, we hear all of it. You know what I mean? We hear all of it, we see all of it. And to even come full circle with what you guys, talked about being different or being super skinny. Like, I was the only Jewish kid in my school, and they'd ask to see my horns, and I had a really big nose, and it was like, I got bullied my pretty much my whole childhood. And what it did for me was, it was like, all right, I'm just going to embrace being different, and I don't really care. Like what Shannon was saying, like, I didn't care what people said about me. I just didn't care. And I'm, I just didn't. And I'm grateful that I had the fortitude to deal with the bullying and get through it, And I just feel like you don't go anywhere. Kids today don't go anywhere without a phone. Like, 2-year-olds are on their phone. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
it's almost like a whole new addiction is
Yeah.
being on the phone. Like, I feel like what we need to do is, take it away. Like, I think that the internet was meant to be like a source of information and getting information, and maybe like connectivity for people, like,
It was supposed to make us all better.
correct. And that's the challenge that we face, is hopefully, you know that saying, garbage in, garbage out. right?
Yeah.
And so, the hope is that enough positive information gets out there, and that, maybe we can, as Sully says, tap the brakes on all of this, and slow it down, and just really try to help people see that life is really beautiful. It's part of what we do. We practice in our groups what's called mindful kindness, and we practice like agape methods. And I just wish there was more of it. It's there for people, but they're still hung up on, designer labels and not being good enough.
Thank God for you guys who are, thankfully we're a little bit thicker skinned and, dealt with it your own way, and now you're able to help more people. So, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, it's just like addiction, right? It's like, I used to be in that hole. I found the way out of the hole,
Mm-hmm.
and now let me show you, right?
Correct.
Which is all beautiful. And you guys, this has been such a cool conversation. We got to talk about music. I got to thank Shannon for helping me out back in '99. Jason, we got to talk about a bunch of good stuff. And I wish we had more time, because I feel like we could keep going, talking more. I want to know more about agape and what mindful kindness is. I've never heard that before. That sounds super cool.
Agape, Greek for love, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Agape?
Yes.
Greek for love, yeah?
Correct. But it's compassion, empathy, and compassion and empathy is like the crux of it.
Which we need more of in the world. Absolutely. But since it is getting close to the end of our time here, we do have a tradition that we like to close things out with something that we call rapid fire question time.
It's rapid fire question time.
Gotta love the explosions.
We tried to get the rights to Voodoo for that intro, but it's too much money. Jason, take it away, my friend.
All right. So, Shannon, what was your first concert?
My first concert, Judas Priest, Point of Entry tour with Iron Maiden opening on the Killers tour, 1981.
Nice.
Ooh.
Naomi?
Beck Bogart and Appice at the Hollywood Sportatorium, and I don't remember what year.
Okay. So, Naomi, what is your guilty pleasure song? The song that you would be embarrassed if we found you listening
that was
to.
my question. I started that. Shit. I don't know. I don't know.
All right,
Honestly.
Shannon?
I like Madonna. I always got crap. I like her music, though. I like her voice.
Like 80s era Madonna, like Lucky Star Borderline?
Lucky Star is undeniably amazing song.
I just always liked all of her records. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I like Madonna.
All right, what about Shannon? What's your favorite movie?
Evil Dead 2 is
Nice
my
one.
favorite all-time movie.
Oh.
But,
Naomi, favorite movie?
Dirty Dancing.
That's a good one. So here we go, Naomi, because you probably know the person, so it might be a little embarrassing. Who is your celebrity crush?
I honestly don't have one.
You're full of baloney. Shannon?
Sofia Vergara.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and this is my favorite one for music industry insider people. Shannon, what was the last concert you paid for?
Ooh.
Oh, wow. I bought does buying my daughter tickets count?
Yes, it does.
I just got her tickets for the weekend in Atlanta.
Okay, cool. Naomi's never paid for a concert in her life.
I did. Sean Mullins at Ram's Head in Annapolis.
That's how, you love that guy. You
love
always
that guy.
have.
Yep.
Lullaby.
Wait, that's not that guy, right?
Yeah.
Everything.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Rockabye, not lullaby. Rockabye.
No, the name of the song is Lullaby, but the lyric is Rockabye.
Naomi
Well,
schooled
that's
me
just
on that,
confusing.
Joseph. That's the
That's
only
what's
reason I know.
confusing.
We've had the same conversation so many
That's
times.
not fair. Is that the last? Was that the last question, Jason?
That was it. Yeah.
That was 5. All right. That was a good rapid fire question time. I love it. There was nothing food related though, so that is upsetting.
Joseph always goes for the food. I don't know. Just
I'm gonna throw it out there. It's because
Do it.
it's the right thing to do.
bonus
Shannon,
question.
If you were an ice cream sundae, what would you consist of?
Who, me?
Yes.
Ice cream sundae. Well, I definitely have vanilla ice cream. And smoked oysters. Spicy smoked oysters. And then on the top.
Wow.
I love it. That's probably the best answer so far. Naomi, you had some time to think. I saw you thinking about it. All right.
No,
you're an
I
ice
mean
cream
mine's
sundae.
obvious. I would have vanilla chip and coffee chip, hot fudge, whipped cream, no cherry, maybe some wet walnuts.
Nice.
Hey,
I would
wait.
eat that one. Sorry, Shannon. I would not eat your ice cream sundae.
Never.
Joseph's those questions just remind me of like the dating game from like the 70s, but I love it.
No, but see, in the dating game in the 70s, they'd always get a little raunchy with it, you know?
Right. Okay.
Anyway, so you guys, thank y'all both so much for being here. We did share out, if people want to find more information about the Scars Foundation, we have scarsfoundation.org. If you want to donate, if you want to get involved, if you want to just tell Naomi what an awesome human she is, tell Shannon how much you love Godsmack. Great place to reach out to them there. We're going to give you guys kind of the last word, to leave everybody who's watching today with one last thought or one piece of advice or kind of whatever you want to do. Shannon, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, just don't keep quiet. If you have issues or problems, reach out and believe in therapy. It works. I can attest to it. I'm walking living proof. And for people who like Godsmack, we have a new record coming soon. It's coming soon.
Y'all just announced the tour, right?
My boss told me that don't do any press for this, so we're not talking about it. But we got something. Got something for y'all. It's coming soon. I promise.
You heard it here, folks. We got the scoop on that one.
Wait, really quick, Naomi, you're going to appreciate this. I just got a text from David Abraham saying, say agapo is Greek for I love you. And he said, good show.
Tell David, thank you for the clarity.
Okay.
Naomi, last words.
I just want to really thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you guys. I really miss being at Recovery Unplugged, but I'm really fulfilled with what I'm doing at the Scars Foundation. We're here to help. If anybody needs help, we're here, and just reach out. And thanks, you guys. Really, thank you, Shannon, for doing this with us also. And thanks, Jason and Joseph. I love you guys, and you're doing an awesome job.
We love you too.
We love you too, Naomi. We're still just here doing this thing.
All right, we're doing this one again. We're going to revisit this one again because we got so much stuff that I feel like we could have gone on for hours, which it warmed my heart to be on tonight with you both. So thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
Let's do it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, follow, and share. By sharing this conversation, you could help somebody find recovery or healing or connection or whatever it is that they're missing. So please support us. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. I think that matters. 5-star reviews only. If it's 2 or 3, just forget it. Get out of here. But as we like to say here on Talksicology, there's 1,000 ways in and 1,000 ways out. We hope you find yours.
Amen.